In this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 of the hardest SAT reading and writing problems that I've seen across my time taking Bluebook practice tests and help you figure out how to solve these on test day, similar problems, and use the best strategies to get them right every single time. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Here is a reading and writing vocabulary problem. These practice problems are taken from a variety of the tests in Bluebook practice because I just found them to be particularly difficult when I was doing the practice tests. So let's look at the problem. My strategy for approaching vocabulary problems is typically trying to come up with a word that fills in this blank on my own without looking at the answer choices. In fact, I'll cover the answer choices on my screen sometimes to make sure I'm not distracted by them. If it's an underlined word, then I'll try to come up with a synonym for the word and the underline on my own before looking at the answer choices. But let's go ahead and read the passage while trying to come up with an appropriate word to fill in that blank. Proposals to raise the age at which retirees begin receiving government transfers of funds are generally discussed in terms of the effects on transfer recipients. But Andrea Smith has argued that delaying such transfers could blank wealth creation among working adults by lengthening the period in which they're providing financial support to their non-working parents. This paragraph shows a relationship between younger working class adults and older parents who are receiving Social Security funds or something similar to that. And it suggests that when delaying such money from the government, it would have a negative impact on working adults. So, such transfers could hurt wealth creation among working adults. So, some kind of hurt, negatively impact, that's the type of word we're looking to fill in this blank. Do we see any words down here that indicate that? A is stymie, B is compound, C is disparage, and D is outstrip. B doesn't make any sense because compounding is actually positive. C is disparage, which doesn't quite fit within the context of the sentence. D, to outstrip, means that these younger working class people are outpacing in some way. That doesn't make sense. However, A, stymie, does mean negatively impact or to suppress wealth creation. So that would be our answer. Here is a problem that deals with scientific data in a chart and using that chart to come up with the answer. Similarly to the vocabulary problems, I don't look at the answers, but I instead try to use the paragraph and the graph to come up with my own answer before comparing that answer to the answer choices. Let's read the paragraph. In a study of urban physical expansion, Richa Mata et al. Conducted a meta-analysis of more than 300 cities worldwide to determine whether urban land expansion, ULE, was more strongly affected or influenced by urban population growth or by growth in domestic product. So we recognize that there's some kind of relationship going on here. Urban land expansion influenced by population growth or growth in gross domestic product. A measure of economic activity. Because efficient national government is necessary to provide urban services and infrastructure that attract economic investment, Mata et al. Proposes that, absent other factors, the importance of GDP per capita growth to ULE would likely increase relative to the importance population growth as governments becoming more efficient. So there's a hypothesis here. He's proposing that, absent other factors, GDP is going to have a greater impact. If true, this possibility suggests that blank. Now, let's look at the graph to see if we can find anything that would seem to support Mata's hypothesis. We see two different regions here, region 1 and region 2. This is percentage of ULE attributed to population growth and GDP per capita growth in two world regions. Now, in region 1, we see the urban population growth go up and the GDP per capita growth go down. However, in region 2, we see the exact opposite. Your urban population growth goes down as GDP per capita growth goes up. So based on Mata's hypothesis then, Region 2 would experience more growth in government efficiency since the GDP is going up. Let's look at the answers. A. National governments of countries in Region 1 experience declines in efficiency. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking specifically for Region 2 increasing, and maybe Region 1 decreasing as well. B. Countries in Region 1 experienced a slower rate of economic growth in the period from 2000 to 2014 than countries in Region 2 did, despite increasing national government efficiency in Region 1. Now, that slower rate of growth would make sense, but let's go and look at the other answers. C. National government of most countries in Region 2 became more efficient in the period from 2000 to 2014 than they had been in the periods from 1970 to 2000. But those of several countries in the regions did not. That last sentence disqualifies it. We don't need to consider other countries in the region. D. National governments of countries in Region 1 and in Region 2 generally became more efficient from 2000 to 2014, but at different rates. That, again, is not what we're looking for. B is truly our answer because it expresses that Region 2 had a higher rate of economic growth than Region 1. Let's look at this poem. They're asking us, what is the main idea of the text? Very similarly, I want to try to understand what the poem is talking about, what the main idea is, before I actually read the answers. But one trick for this type of problem is you don't have to read the introduction to the text if you don't want to. Weary with toil, I hurry to my bed. The dear repose for limbs with travel tired. But then begins a journey in my head to work my mind when body's works expired. For then my thoughts from far where I abide begin a zealous pilgrimage to thee, and keep my drooping eyelids wide. So we have this idea of someone who's been traveling and they're tired. And then he starts dreaming. You have this journey. It's tiring him out when he's already physically tired. So you might think this person is dreaming, but no, you see this last sentence, it says, and keep my drooping eyelids wide. So he's either having some kind of thoughts or he's having a daydream, not a nighttime dream, since he is not asleep. So that's going to be kind of the idea of the main idea of the text. The speaker is asleep and dreaming about traveling to see the friend. That's A. But as we know, he's not asleep. B. The speaker is planning an upcoming trip to the friend's house. But we know he's resting in some way, and that covers the first half of the passage, so this is not the main idea. C. The speaker is too fatigued to continue a discussion with a friend. He's not talking with a friend, simply thinking about him, so this can't be the right answer. D. The speaker is thinking about the friend instead of immediately falling to sleep. That makes sense when you consider it. He's making this pilgrimage to the friend. This would be our answer. Here is another research-oriented text, but without a graph. Very similarly, we'll try to find a relationship between terms within the text, create our own answer, and then compare it to the answer choices. Some astronomers searching for extraterrestrial life have proposed that atmospheric ammonia can serve as a biosignature gas, an indication that a planet harbors life. Jincheng Huang, Sarah Seeger, and colleagues evaluated this possibility, finding that on rocky planets, atmospheric ammonia likely couldn't reach detectably high levels in the absence of biological activity. But the team also found that on so-called mini-Neptunes, gas planets smaller than Neptune, but with atmospheres similar to Neptune's, atmospheric pressure and temperatures can be high enough to produce atmospheric ammonia. Now, based on this text, we can see on most planets, if there's ammonia and it's detectable, there's probably going to be biological activity. So there's a relationship between ammonia and biological activity and living things. But there's an exception when we have a mini Neptune, and there can be higher amount of ammonia on these planets. The key difference, though, is that we have mini Neptunes, which are gas planets. So they can still have high enough levels of ammonia without biological activity. But on rocky planets, the key factor up here, ammonia does signal biological activity. So now we have that relationship discovered. We can get the general idea that for a rocky planet, if there's ammonia, there's going to be biological activity. If it's a gas planet or a mini Neptune, and there's ammonia, there's not necessarily biological activity. Let's look at the text. It says, based on the text, Wong, Seeger, and colleagues would most likely agree with which statement about atmospheric ammonia? A. Its presence is more likely to indicate that a planet is a mini Neptune than the planet is a rocky planet that could support life. It doesn't compare which one is going to be more likely based on this text. It would require to use knowledge outside of the text that's not found here. B. Its absence from a planet that's not mini Neptune indicates that the planet probably doesn't have life. That's, again, requires us to use knowledge outside of the passage because there can be other types of planets that are not mini Neptunes, not rocky planets that we don't know anything about. So that can't be the answer either. C. Should be treated as a biosignature gas if detected in the atmosphere of a rocky planet, but not if detected in the atmosphere of a mini Neptune. This is just what I said and makes sense. D. It doesn't reliably reach high enough concentrations in the atmospheres of rocky planets or mini Neptunes to be treated as a biosignature gas. It does reach high enough concentrations to be treated that way on rocky planets. This directly contradicts the passage, so C is our answer. Last problem. This one deals with verbs, and very similarly, we should be creating our own idea of the verb that's going to be here. The tense, the person, the number, which means singular or plural, before looking at the answer choices. Researchers study the terracotta army, the thousands of life-size statues of warriors found interred near the tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang of China, were shocked to realize that the shape of each statue's ears, like the shape of each person's ears, blank unique. Now we need to take apart this sentence and figure out what this verb is being used to connect. What's the subject of the sentence? Researchers studying the terracotta army, thousands of life-size statues of warriors found interred near the tomb of Qin Shi Huang of China were shocked to realize the shape of each statue's ears, blank unique. So we can take that out. That's not necessary. And it appears that the subject, or the thing that they're calling unique, is the shape of each statue's ears. But of each statue's ears is really just a modifier. It's describing shape. So considering that, we have to look at the number and the person of shape. This is third person because it's not I or you, and it's also singular. And this is also present day. That's the other thing that's important to consider because this is still what the shape is today. A, are. That's not right because it's plural. B, is. That can be correct because it's present, it's third person, and it's singular. C, were. Again, this is plural. Have been. This is in the past, and it's also plural. So not correct. B is our answer.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, ideas for future videos, please leave those in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.